Today we have got to do the water pump on the T20. It's a job that needs doing ASAP, so the sun is out, 13.5 degrees at the moment, and it has today arrived, so we're going to go over now and get that done. Hopefully the trailer hubs are going to be here later, and the new wheels, so we can put them on too, and then we can have a look at having a go at getting the Sierra started if there's enough time, but hopefully the T20 won't take long. Main concern with that is going to be if the radiator nuts undo on the studs at the bottom, so that I can move it out of the way to get the fan out from the shroud, but I'm pretty confident they're going to, and I'm pretty sure that last time I had it off I put on back with copper slip anti-seize, so fingers crossed that I did. Council doing 29 mile an hour in a 40. Shocking. And a careful driver, but just dawdling about because they've got nothing better to do. Answers in the comments below, people. Let's see how much of this water we can catch, eh? Where's my bottle gone now?
It's on the floor, it's fruit.
Ugh, where's it gone? It's been hours preparing that. I think it needs a bit more prep. Champ for the edges. I bet it won't work, you know, after I've done it. And try and all go everywhere. I'm trying. I've caught some of it. It could have been a lot worse. It looks worse than it is. No, we need a new clip for that too, really, because that's rotten now. See, if the drain tap in the radiator would work, I could have used that. But I bet it's seized. I reckon so. I know, they're £160. £160. I'm not spending all that if I don't need to. Ew. I've got to lay down there now.
Hey?
I've got to lay down there now.
Have you got to lay down there?
Yeah.
I thought you had a more tank from up top of you.
You got to loosen the radiator off.
How long did take this thing down now because you're not going to use it, are you?
Well, if it rains, I have to put my cover on. I've got my cover. It's a two-person job to take down. It's a two-person job to take down, really. If you close the bonnet, you can get to the nuts underneath. Where's your one?
You did the old standard for that, didn't you?
11/16, yeah. They're bloody freezing.
Yeah, it's not hot, is it?
Oh, they're not. They're bloody cold, they are. Oh. All these wires hanging down.
Get the sun out properly.
I know, yeah, you tell it, you tell it. Are we off? Oh, you bugger. Come on. Flipping ratchet. Rubbish. Silly shite. Where's my spring washer? There's not one there. There it is. Right. Two on that side, one on that side. Let's go. I'm getting old. Seven, oh, half-inch. Hey. Better, isn't it? Where's a little whizzy popper? In the car. Me little gun.
Hey?
Oh, that's unlucky, isn't it? Gonna have to loosen the alternator. Yeah. Fancy put something where you can't get on it. think it's a stud. I'm going to disconnect the battery before I short out. Ooh. You can see that shorting out if I'm not careful. I said I'm going to disconnect that before it shorts out, because you know how uncareful I am. Phew, that should now tap in. Why is it tight? Because I haven't released that, have I? Yeah, it will in a minute. I'm going to take the bolt out completely. That'll do it. Because what I haven't done, slackened off the flap. The sorry, you know the tensioner bar. I haven't slackened that. So I haven't slackened the tensioner bar, so it's not pivoting. I'm just going to do this instead. Ah, I undone the nut and it's bolted through the alternator. That's why it wouldn't move.
I see aerospace are taking on workers.
Again?
Yeah.
They're always taking on and laying off, aren't they? Ah, it went there and I see it. There you go.
Yeah, they're advertising on Facebook they want workers.
They have been for the last 6 months.
For aircraft fitters.
It's a highly skilled job. There we go. See how easy that was? See how easy that was? I can go on out of the way. I could do a painting really, couldn't I? Oh, look at the balance. Where's my 15mm? Zing, zing, zing. Ooh. It's 9/16. Wibbly wobbly, wobbly wobbly. Now I need an extension. Oh, blimey. Got my super duper universal joint down here. That'll be long enough. That bad boy. Lovely job.
Easy.
That's what happens, you see, when you look after things. Maintain them. Things fall to bits easily for you. Lovely job. Not too bad, just leaking. I'm sure that's the one we put a kit in, isn't it?
Hey?
I'm sure that's the one we put a kit in 20 odd years ago.
Years ago, really.
About 20 years ago we put a kit in that, yeah. But it costs more to buy it costs more now to buy a kit than it does to buy a pump.
Buy the pump complete.
What's the better? It's not painted either. Well, that'd be annoying, won't it, if that's the case? I haven't got any paint with me, Father. You got any black paint? Where did you put it? It doesn't feel that good anyway. Said it doesn't feel that good. You got any black paint? Could have put some paint on it.
You
Got any paint?
have I got any paint?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Ugh. Otherwise it's all going to rust unless we cover it in oil.
You've got paint on it, haven't it?
No, it's just bare casting. Bloody rubbish.
Well, it's not a rebuilt one, is it?
Oh no, it's brand new. What I'm doing here is just using a dye to clean up the two studs on the bottom of the water pump fixtures. So the water pump's got 3 bolt holes on it, and the bottom 2 holes use studs, and the top hole is a bolt that goes into the block. So with the dye I can clean the thread up to make sure that the nut goes on nice and easily, and there's not going to be any debris that will get trapped between the pump and the gasket and the face where the pump meets the block. Also, with doing this, it makes sure that the thread in the block is clear of debris, and when I tighten the bolt in the top of the water pump, it's not going to bottom out or give me a false tightness because there's contamination of the threads. So when I put these back on now, what I'll do is I'll use some copper grease, anti-seize compound, and next time I need to do anything work with the water pump, hopefully it will come off nice and easy. Next job is to apply the gasket to the block. The 2 studs on the block hold the gasket in place for me, and then apply my copper grease. Just going to give the bolt a quick clean up now, because obviously the threads on the bolt need cleaning as well as the threads in the block, and we'll use the tap to chase the threads out on the 2 nuts that go onto the 2 studs as well. Because I have painted the water pump quickly on the day, and the paint hasn't dried at the moment, what I have done is use the 4 bolts that hold the water pump pulley onto the water pump as a point for me to hold the water pump without actually getting my fingers covered in paint. Also using the bolt at the top to hold the other end of the water pump, and this has let me install it and keep the paint in place while the paint dries, so it should hopefully prevent corrosion. Use a little impact driver just to speedily, put the bolt in and the 2 nuts on, and just gone back now to the ratchet just to tighten the bolts by hand, just so I can get a good feel for how tight they actually are. Looking a bit confused here, the pulley for some reason's not going onto the water pump correctly, and I should have really checked this before I installed the pump and painted it, or painted it and installed it, but I didn't, so a bit of a silly error to make. But what I found out was the bolt that holds the water pump pulley hub onto the water pump shaft is actually too long, and it's not letting the pulley fit on because of that. So in effect it's making the diameter too big for the pulley. So if this wasn't painted, I would have, or if it was painted earlier and the paint was dry, I would have taken the water pump off to shorten the bolt a little bit, but the easiest thing to do now, because the paint is still wet, is to use the grinder just to nick the end off the bolt thread so that it lets the pulley go back over as it should do correctly without catching, and sit correctly onto the pulley hub. There we go, the water pump pulley now fits nicely onto the hub, so there's no interference from the bolt that I just cut down. One other thing I should have checked before I actually put the water pump on was that the bolt holes in the water pump pulley hub actually lined up with the water pump pulley itself. I don't know why, but for some reason I was having quite a bit of difficulty getting the water pump belt on. I don't know why it was tight going on. It came off easy enough with the old water pump, but with the new one and the original pulley, I was just having a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. Don't know why, just one of them things. As you can see now, we're going to install the fan. And this is where I found out that the holes in the fan aren't quite the same as the new water pump hub. So what I've had to do is file the fan out to let the bolts go into the hub nice and perpendicular so they don't cross thread. The bolt holes, the threads on the bolts were just catching on the side of the fan and the pulley. So what I'm doing here is using a thread tap just to put through, and the tap will actually cut away any material on the pulley or the fan that is causing interference, and this will now let me keep the bolt holes as tight as possible but get the bolts in without doing any damage to the threads. No expense spared on my channel too. You clips. Lovely new clips. It's tight. Hey, don't forget my nice shiny paint that I then covered with the pulley. No, anyway, he's excited to fit the hubs and wheels like you are.
Eh?
He's excited to fit the hubs and wheels like you are. He wants to see this baby run again. And leak for the thing on the seal on the gasket. Where's that hot grease?
That's it.
Look at all the ants. They're everywhere. Good job I'm not frightened.
It only needs ½ inch. So you got to bring the race off again down there.
Yeah.
Well, I did say that we might have to alter the spacers.
He did.
Depending on what hub it is.
Well, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay, so well, that's the water pump done now, so hopefully that'll last a few years. So this is the one that I took off. This is the original water pump. Has a hole in the bottom. The reproduction things have a slot in there, and you can get a rebuild kit for these. Now the bearings don't feel too bad, but clearly the seal behind here has gone. You can see like start a bit of corrosion there going up to the impeller. So made in the UK, you won't find that anymore, will you? Right, anyway, yeah, digressing. So you can get a rebuild kit for these. We put a rebuild kit in this 25 years ago, probably a Vapormatic one, I think it was. And when you saw me doing the grinding on this, what it actually is there is this bolt that goes through here, so like a slight taper, and there's a groove actually in the shaft to pull this in, and the thread was sticking out too far past, you know, like the radius of the pulley hub, and what I had to do was actually grind the top of the bolt off so that it was flush with the pulley hub and the casting to let the fan belt pulley actually slide on, because the stud was actually stopping it from going on. The other thing I have found is, I think it was that hole there on the aftermarket one wasn't quite in the same place as the original fan and the original hub, so what I had to do was file it out a little bit and then run a tap down it just to actually cut a bit of thread into the hub and the fan, using the actual thread in here as a guide. It wasn't a massive amount out, probably only a mil, but it was enough to stop me getting the bolt in. So if I hadn't have painted that one before I put it on and the paint was still wet, I would have just taken it off and then probably done it off the tractor rather than trying to do it on, but the paint was wet, so I did do it on the tractor. So another thing to be aware of is when you're buying one of these, you can buy just the bare pump without this hub on it, and you don't get that little stud either, and that saves you about a tenner. But what you have to remember is Normally these haven't been off for years, and that hub, there's a good chance it's going to be stuck on that shaft. Now, for the sake of around a tenner, for me today, it wasn't worth messing about. But I'm going to recondition this and then put it back in stock, so that I've got one if I ever need it, if that one ever fails, because I believe this is going to be far better quality than that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and get a Agco refurb kit, and then I'll rebuild this one. Now the bearings haven't gone, like I say, it's just a seal, so I'll put it to bits, give it a clean and refurb it, ready to go. But you know, if I go on a road run and it leaks, then I've got a spare to change. It's not the end of the world. But you know, for, I think it's £44 I paid for that pump off the internet. It's not mega money, is it? It costs you 45 quid for the kit, and in the kit you get the shaft, you get the bearings, the seal and the impeller and a gasket, you know. But there's nothing wrong with that, it's just it wants a seal, so I'm going to recon it. But yeah, what we do next on it, I think the next job is going to be the hydraulics, because that's the next job. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you a penny, and I've noticed that 97% of my viewers haven't subscribed. Don't know why you haven't subscribed, but you're viewing, so yeah, please help the channel grow a little bit. Give us a like and a subscribe, and just show a little bit of appreciation. Be nice, bit of reward for me. Thanks for watching.